Welcome
to the Bring Me to Life podcast.
It's time to wake up
and shine on.
Welcome to this roundtable discussion on the state of affairs. Right now it's the end of March in 2020, a big year. And as we are recording this, the world is in a state of emergency due to a pandemic. So today we have a panel of speakers, each with a unique point of view. And the main goal for this discussion, this roundtable, is to help others to find meaning, to find hope, to find healing in these uncertain times. My name is Suleiman. I'll be hosting the discussion today. And now I'm going to let the speakers introduce themselves. So please, speakers, tell everyone your name, a little bit about yourself, where you are, and what your situation is like right now. And we'll start with Amy.
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Amy Pinder. I'm a speech language therapist and also a music festival producer. I created the Music and Wellness Festival Inclusion Festival. It's a sensory-friendly festival that's designed to include all ages and abilities. It was inspired by the work that I do every day with people with autism and other differences. Right now, I'm in New Jersey, and my day-to-day life has changed quite a bit. I see clients in person for most of my time, but right now I'm seeing many of them remotely, but not all of them. And in the music and event industry, things are kind of at a standstill. So I'm putting my energy into my clients right now and how I can best serve families.
Awesome. Well, we're really glad to have you here, Amy. Let's go over to Sarah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Hall. I am an angel channeler, spiritual teacher, and healer. I live in the Detroit area of Michigan. And right now I am, of course, practicing social distancing and continuing to do my healing work. I already work from home, so there hasn't been too much of a change for me there. It's been wonderful, actually, to continue to do healing work with people during this time. And other than that, I'm just kind of really focusing on retreat, a lot of prayer, meditation, and just doing whatever little humble contribution I can to help to clear any fear that people seem to be having during this time.
We are excited to have you as well, Sarah. Thank you. Shannon, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi guys, Shannon Shine here from the Appalachian Mountains. I am a transformational guide as well as an artist. I'm lucky to be still able to work from home and get out into nature. However, I do really miss seeing all of my clients and friends and family in person. So I'm doing my best to share some light wherever I can, however I can.
Awesome. Thank you. Nick, go ahead.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Nicholas Melnicki. I am yoga teacher, meditation teacher, personal training, and nutrition coach. And honestly, right now I'm kind of adopting more of a quarantine mindset. I was just a little free going, and now I'm kind of slowing down. And what I've been noticing is it's been so helpful for me be going slow and maintaining to myself, and that's been very freeing and bringing a lot of awareness to what's going on around me and with my friends and family. So really excited to be here today. Thank you everyone for joining us, and really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you for being here, Nick. We are excited to have you as well. It's good to have a more masculine voice. So now that we have the introductions out of the way, I do have questions prepared for everyone. If speakers, if you can try to keep your answers around 5 minutes, I want to make sure that we give each one of you a chance to comment on any questions that I ask anybody. So if you do have something you want to add to what somebody says, just wait until they're done speaking and then say, I would like to add something to that, or I will ask everybody if they want to add anything. So right now, are there any questions, any comments so far from any of the speakers?
Sounds good to me.
Looking forward to it.
Beautiful. So to anybody who is listening live, we do have a chat at bringmetolife.com. Leave any questions in there. I'll be monitoring it during this discussion. And if we have time, I'll take some of those questions. All right, so getting right into the discussion, my first question is for Sarah. This is a very crazy time for everybody on this planet, for every living being on this planet. What do the angels have to say about what's going on in the world right now?
Thank you so much for that question. I, of course, have been tuning into my angels a lot lately throughout everything that's been going on. And I've generally gotten 3 main messages from them. 1 being do not fear. 2, have faith. 3, this is a really important time for all of us to slow down, get centered, and to simplify our lives. Regarding fear, just for a moment, I think it's important for us to just unpack that a little bit and acknowledge that fear really only works to debilitate us. When we're in fear, we begin to flounder in our ability to function in a grounded, productive, healthy way. So one message that I've gotten repeatedly from my angels is just stay centered. Stay in the present moment with everything that's going on. I know it's so easy that when you're listening to the media that we can start to jump to conclusions and think, what is this going to do to the world and that kind of thing. Detox from the media when you can. Take a break. Sure, be informed and get the information that you need to make practical, informed decisions. But other than that, detox from media and know that this is a really, really important time to hold space for peace. That being said, I think if fear comes out right now, that's okay. Honestly, when life's pressures come up, it often squeezes what's inside of us outside of us. So if there was underlying fear or anxiousness or worry in any area of your life and it's surfacing now, that's okay. There's no judgment for that. There's only love. Angels certainly don't judge, and I practice not doing that either. And now we have an opportunity to love and support ourselves through this, through any fear that we see rising at this time. Lastly, one other final little thing that I've kind of heard from my angels in tuning into this situation that has actually helped me, it's really resonated with me, is just to know that with everything going down right now, it's good to remember that the healing process in general serves us. So right now there's something going on with regard to health in the world. The healing process serves us beyond just simply fighting a virus, or if you're releasing a toxin or you're mending a tear or a fracture. Healing actually spreads into all levels of our being, expanding and awakening our awareness of unity. It unifies all aspects of our life. It unifies the mind, the body, and the spirit. And all of our relationships with everything, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with others, our relationship with the web of life and the earth. And often that healing process requires us to lift into an even higher state of awareness and more unified functioning than that we had even before that illness or that injury had ever occurred. So I'll just sort of leave that where it is, and we can kind of conclude what we may from that idea of the healing journey regarding this current time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree that I think, a lot is coming out right now, especially because people have to stay home. They have to, they can't distract themselves with their work or with events because there's so many events going on all the time. So it's such a powerful time for us to lay back and to begin to, acknowledge whatever is going on within us. And I love what you said about that, Sarah. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Anybody have any comments on that so far?
It just gave me a visual when she was saying that squeezing the inside out, just like a towel wringing out some liquid or the water. And when that happens, some things pass through our awareness and maybe it doesn't land in the bucket that's beneath. But I think for a lot of us now, so many things have happened so many different ways that now we are very aware and present to what's happening. And a lot of the things that get wrung out do get captured in the bucket of awareness, so to speak. And we learn these lessons, and our sight and vision, our 2020 vision, is very much opening up.
I love that. I think there's a shit ton of revelations happening for people right now, and so many downloads. So this is for everybody. What are some revelations or downloads that people are having right now? This is for any speaker.
I think the notion of 2020 vision is really a powerful one. It was something that, so many people were putting out their ideas and their intentions for the year ahead with, this milestone year moment in time. And I think it's really interesting that now people are, not by choice, but by necessity, having to reevaluate and reassess what visions they had, and, releasing control over what they thought might be, and needing to take time to decide what is really worth it to go back to, and what kind of changes and edits need to be made in each of our own lives. So it's a big shift.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that it's been a big download for so many people to just really step back and to pay as much attention to your inner world as you are your outer world, because so often we fill our schedules to the brim because we think we have to be productive, but we don't give time to bring light to our shadows or the mirror that keeps replaying in our day-to-day life that our soul is trying to show us. So now I found a lot of people that I work with are really becoming more self-aware of what it is they've been working through, the same kind of issues or storylines that have been playing over and over for them the last few months. They can't run away from them anymore. And they're also having to become more self-sustainable and not depend on these systems that are kind of crumbling beneath us. But as Sarah said, I think it's not a time to fear. We have to understand that change is uncomfortable. I have a saying that I like to remember when I get uncomfortable is you have to get uncomfortable being uncomfortable. Or I said that wrong. Sorry. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because it's part of life and it's part of the change, because it's exciting to see that the life is shifting in such a way. So many people had been asking for a break and now they're getting it, but they're scared of it.
Yeah, it can be scary to be alone with yourself, especially if you're not used to it, because there's a lot that goes on within us, and it's such a powerful time, to accept all that and to, decide where to go from here. So, any final comments before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
You please go ahead. I'll go after.
Okay. Well, mine's quick. I was just going to say another revelation that I think is coming out a lot at a kind of big level is that we are one. We're seeing ourselves as a one global community. And I think that's a really important lesson during this time.
Love that.
Yeah, huge, because we're all going through the same thing, basically. Well, there's a lowest common denominator within us all that is being touched upon and perhaps either agitated or frustrated or even potentially released and elated. And I really liked what Shannon said about get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then also what Silaman has stated about it's kind of like an overwhelmingness. And I've been experiencing this for myself, and a revelation and a download that has been reoccurrent for me is the process of honoring and even stepping down the ladder or the stairs, taking our shoes off and sitting on the ground floor, our back erect, and to notice that this is what we have been training for, and we have been guided to be here right now. And this is what it is, even if we are overwhelmed. And then we realize through slowing down that our greatest power is within us, and that it is time now to see clearly. And as we see clearly, we begin to watch ourselves even more deeply. And all of us here know, and perhaps all of the viewers know, that there is something watching, and that's the watcher, and that is you. And we can pay honor and homage to our ancestors that are not only external, but also internal as well. And it is a great support and a safety that is under and around us as we're all going forth together, and we all share the truth that everything is growth for the soul, no matter what our current perceptions are.
And let me tell you, we are growing right now. So let's go ahead and let's take it up to the stars for a second, because I feel like what goes on within us goes on without us. And also because we are all one and we are all connected, what happens in one part of the universe ripples out to the rest of the universe. And we'll only touch on some of the basics of this kind of like a planetary alignment, the astrology, because I'm really curious about that stuff. And so I know, Sarah, I know that you put out a video. You do usually at the beginning of each year, you put out a video that talks about the alignments. So what can you tell us about where we are right now with the alignments of the planets and all the astrology?
Yes. Well, one thing that I think is really interesting that's going on right now is on March 21st, we had Saturn enter into Aquarius. This is going to remain roughly until 2023. And when this transit occurs, according to astrologers, this usually represents a major restructuring of society. It usually represents an awakening into this idea that we are one, seeing ourselves as a global community. There's an emphasis on answering tough questions, learning valuable lessons, and creating these new social structures. And just as an example, last time that we had Saturn moving through Aquarius was 1991 through 93. During that time, apartheid was dismantled. Before that, 1962 to 64, we had the Civil Rights Act come up during that time. 1932 to 35, the Great Depression had begun in 29, but 32 to 35 was the time where we saw FDR's New Deal come in, bringing in the social reform, security, a lot of infrastructure overhaul. So there are a lot of things going on in the planets and the stars that kind of represent this sort of social and structural overhaul. And 2020, what I talked about in my 2020 video was essentially that this is a time in which we're rebuilding a lot. 2020 is sort of like a building year, a foundation building year. So from 2020 to 23, we've got this time where we're maybe shaking a lot of that up. We're restructuring, reorganizing our foundation and that kind of thing. But overall, through this decade, we do have a lot of amazing opportunity to see some really big kind of positive changes occurring at a unified level, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really powerful. Shannon, what do you have to add to that?
I don't have as many specific dates as Sarah, but I know that in my journal that I wrote a few happenings that were going on astrologically wise, whatever the term is there, that really stuck out to me. I know that some of my astrology friends were really into the fact that Pluto is transitioning in the same aspect with Capricorn that it is right now, back during the American Revolution, as Sarah said, as well as Uranus is transitioning through Taurus, just as it was back during the Great Depression. And the last time Neptune was transitioning through Pisces as it is now, the major movements ended the slavery movement that was really, or the end of slavery was really taking place. So we have this same happening in the sky, and this shift is happening where we're starting to come together, but also see a lot of different systems breaking. And I think that just shows that there's something energetically happening on a cosmic level that's bigger than us. And I had also thought it was very interesting. I recently read a book that kind of talked about the star lineages and the star energy. And I know we had a lot of audience at one point that was really into that kind of information. And in the book Prism of Lyra, it talks about the 2020 kind of breakdown and how there's this energy happening that has happened in very different star lineages for those that are interested in things like the Pleiades and Lyra and things like that, where this energy had played out in a very similar way. And it said that something was going to happen over in China and Asia and that area that was going to shift the world globally to become more of a one energy. And that's exactly kind of what happened, is that this pandemic started over in that area and is now shifting the whole world to see that we're not alone. I think if this was happening in just my country, I would be very alarmed. But seeing it happening across the globe is very eye-opening for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Hey,
Any other comments on this? Okay. So I think that's really beautiful, and I'm glad to get that kind of perspective where everything is just it's such a powerful shift right now. But I'd like to kick it off to Amy, because I know that all of us, everybody right now on this planet is dealing with a lot right now. But we don't often think about what other communities are going through. So, Amy, I know that you work very closely with people with special needs, and I'm curious, how is that community handling this situation?
Well, I can, of course, only talk from the perspective of the people that I am working with and the people that I know. And also, of course, I'm following, the voices of people who are differently abled or who identify as being disabled, and what they have to say about how this is impacting them. And what's come up again and again, what's been published in many different editorials and opinion pieces, is a little bit of an anger overall from the disability community. And it has a lot to do with what both Sarah and Shannon were talking about, this shift towards unity and this restructuring. And, I personally think that all makes so much sense, and that there's a reason for all of this, and that the restructuring is, what we need. And I am, having these waves of fear and panic at times, but really trusting that there's a higher purpose to all of this, and that we're all in it together. But people who are disabled have been fighting a fight for a long time to be included in society, to be recognized for their strengths and talents, and to be accommodated in their workplaces and their schools and their communities, to be able to share their knowledge and the best of their abilities. And they've been met with a lot of resistance over time. So, what I'm talking about is, being able to work from home, having a flexible work schedule. These are things that would make life a lot easier for everyone, but especially for people who have different types of disabilities. And it's really been, eye-opening, and a real reminder about the persistence of ableism in our, current but shifting societal structure. The world changed in just a matter of moments, in just a few days. Everybody who worked was more or less accommodated to begin working from home, to make changes for their safety and their health and their well-being, to be able to continue to work, not everyone, but many people, from the safety of their home. And that's, again, something that people with disabilities have been asking for, have been fighting for a really long time, with limited success. So I think when we come out of this, that's, just one of the structural changes, is that I hope people are going to have more flexibility in how and where they work, and be recognized for their ability to contribute in different ways. And people with disabilities feel that that's really long overdue.
Wow, that's very eye-opening what you just shared. And I love that you touched on the topic of higher purpose, and that structural change you mentioned is going to, what a beautiful thing ahead of us, with the flexibility of the different options and the structural change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one thing that's becoming very clear is how fragile our system is, and how much we really rely on this broken system. And the fact that it's kind of so eye-opening for so many people, for so many communities. I believe that we're going to come out better and stronger, and our economy could even improve once we figure out ways to make it less fragile, or to just be more sustainable with how we run this economy. Does anybody have any thoughts?
Well, I'd like to add something to that. I've actually heard a lot of people expressing, fears about the economy, about money, about, all kinds of things going on with their job security. And this actually just popped into my head going back to the stars, as we were talking about a moment ago. On April 4th, we actually have a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. This is actually kind of a rare alignment. It happens every 12 to 13 years. And essentially what it means is that there is a shakeup or a change going on around abundance, prosperity, economy, and so forth. So we're likely to see some major shifts that occur in this area. Usually Pluto is a planet of birth and death and rebirth and that kind of thing. So it can bring destruction, sure. But with this Jupiter energy in there at the same time, Jupiter is very heavenly. It's very uplifting, very optimistic. It can represent that though Pluto's not afraid of destroying things in order to rebuild them, we've got this Jupiter energy representing a really bright optimism that helps us to actually more quickly than maybe we might think get to work on fixing things so that we can maybe prosper better than ever before. So I think that in our own unique individual lives, certainly, I know a lot of people are going through a lot of personal worries with all of this. It's so important to stay centered in the present moment, not to worry too much about what's happening, 6 months down the road, but just taking this one day at a time, and also taking this as an opportunity to see where can I restructure things going forward, in my finances or in my career, so that it better matches maybe my truth and authentically what I feel I am meant to do here on this planet. Because that Jupiter energy actually represents, okay, yes, I'm going to get into a state where I am aligned with my life purpose and to feel really, really authentic. And from there comes a sense of prosperity and abundance. So I just thought I'd add that little tidbit. It came to mind.
I love that. Any other speakers have comments?
I would like to comment on what Sarah had just shared, and I think all that is incredible and huge. And for those of us potentially feeling a little overwhelmed or not knowing where to go or what to do, this optimism that's coming through can really help us slow down and tune inward. And a lot of us have heard things about the law of attraction and manifestation and things of that nature, and we can tap into resonance to find our direction. And that could be with seeing a visual of what we would like to get and hold that in mind, or feel a feeling of how we would like to feel and hold that, and pay attention and pay time into those things, and they will surely come up and lead us in different ways that we may not be aware of currently.
I really like what both of you guys had to say, especially what you just said, Nick. It was a big message that I had channeled to one of my classes that I taught recently. The biggest download I think I've received is to continue to focus on the world that we wish to see, rather than fearing the possibility of what could collapse around us. Because the more we feed that energy into the direction that we want to see, we're really building timelines right now. As a transformational coach and a guide that does a lot of readings for people, when it first started shifting, it was really hard because everybody's timelines were literally collapsing around them. And the way that a lot of people read energy is by people's choices, because we have free will here and we have the ability to make certain choices to how we react to situations. And seeing how people were reacting, it got really scary for a lot of people, especially artists, musicians, coaches, guides, independent people of any kind, because gigs and the ability to travel and do what we do as performers, entertainers, and even helpers or healers became not as possible as it had we not been known that we needed to be online. But I want to say that I think that the optimism has been beautiful. I've seen such a support for small artists, musicians, even like servers and waiters that get like tips and wages that have been cut since there can't be people going into restaurants and different entities. The community support has been really beautiful. I think even especially for the artist and musician community more than ever before. So many people are going online and learning how to really put their services and their offerings out there in a way that has went global. I know that I had been focusing a lot on my local community for a while, and the ability to kind of step back and see how we can help the global community has been great, and seeing how many people that are still working are going out there and supporting the artist and pushing those that don't have the ability to do their normal day-to-day jobs to go find what their passion project is pushing them towards, and to put that time towards those things they had pushed aside for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as we're talking about communities, I want to give a quick shout out to all the communities, all the other communities that we aren't able to discuss on this episode, because I know there's a lot of different communities out there, each dealing with their own problems. So let's all just take a quick moment of silence for all the communities out there. Great. I hope you all are doing well. So Shannon, we'll go over back to you. As people are dealing with these things stuck inside, what are some tools that people can use to find more balance and harmony?
Well, I think that my advice during this time is to really connect with your soul and go as deep into your soul journey as you possibly can right now, to understand your own being in its most intimate way, that how it's navigating this time. We're being faced with the ability, as I said earlier, to really focus on our mirror and see what it is that no longer works for us. I think Sarah also brought that up too. Like, there's so many systems that we have put ourselves into because we've been indoctrinated to go along with the flow and not have the ability to really focus on what our soul and our heart wants. So don't look necessarily as much outside for the answers. It's a time to go within, a time to really meditate, a time to get as much sunlight and fresh air in nature as possible, depending on where you are and what the state of your lockdown situation is. But give yourself some time to really surrender to the divine and give a commitment to the universe to show up and to visualize that world. Like we said earlier, visualize what you want to see. As far as some oils and things that I know are really good, that have been said to be really good, I should say, are frankincense is kind of like a nice rounded oil that can help with many things in the immune system. I've been doing some research on colloidal silver being helpful for the immune system right now, as well as just making sure you're eating healthy. I know that getting to food and stocking up for things is kind of scary, and people don't know what to stock up on. And I know personally, when I go to the market, I see all of the frozen and canned foods gone, but the produce is still completely stocked, when people could be getting the nutrients, the healthy food, and making things and freezing it or canning it and learning these self-sustaining things. So make sure you're giving your body the nutrients it needs. Don't just kind of veg out and eat all the junk food because you're scared. Focus on what your body really wants. And then real quick, some crystals, if you're into that kind of thing, crystals that are really good. Or if you haven't gotten into that thing, maybe search and see if crystals like obsidian and black tourmaline are really good for soaking out that negativity. Any crystal really that feels good to you, but also herbs and all these different aspects of life that were kind of considered old school, or in the new age are kind of called woo. They might be really helpful for you in this time to really go within and search what works for you, because what works for you in this time may be different than what works for your neighbor or even your family member or spouse.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I'm going to open it up soon, but first I want to head over to Nick. I know that you're always sharing tips on your stories. So what can you share with us today that will help others to stay healthy physically, mentally, and emotionally?
It's actually pretty basic, and it goes right off of what Shannon was saying about trying to eat as healthy as we can and to not let fear and basically dopamine run our choices and our tastes. And also, it's a very great opportunity to create a vision inside or resonate with some future of ours where it's like, okay, if I'm there in the future, what is he or she eating? What is he or she doing? What would they do in this situation right now? And we all have that feeling within us of our greatest self, and we can tap into that. And so what I have been doing is I've actually been eating less And some of my meals are bigger, some are smaller, but I'm just feeling more like a quarantine. And what that means for me is not really choosing normally, not really choosing for taste. And it just so happens my taste changes. But I'm juicing a lot more and smoothies. I'm not eating late at night. I'm not eating right when I wake up in the morning. A great thing to do is hot lemon water with ginger, if you can access that throughout the day, especially when you wake up in the morning. Make sure we're drinking extra water. If you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated type of thing. Before bed, it's also wonderful for some hot lemon water. These things will really help our digestive system, our intestines, and our stomach. Our stomach is our second brain. So when our insides are clean, cool, calm, and connected, our outsides generally will reflect that as well. And for those of us who have a racy mind or we are anxious and it's a very sensitive experience for us, look at the things you're eating or look at the things you're not eating. I like to tell my friends and family and clients that take what you're doing and call it perfect and accept that. And then just add in what you know to be good. So like, let's say you make smoothies, maybe throw a bunch more greens and veggies in there just to get that. Or if you haven't cooked anything for a while, cut up some veggies, throw some vegetable stock on a pot, toss in the veggies in there, let it sit, you're done. It's super simple. And eating those types of meals, for me, it brings a lot of security. For me, it brings a lot of calmness and honestly, even sensuality, just to slow down and you put time and effort into something that is so easy, healthy, light, good for you. And a lot of what us, at least in America, are missing are just basic minerals and the basic colors in our diet. So getting all different types of colors is really going to help fortify our foundations in which we can stand upon and feel sturdy on. So in addition to the foods and the hydration, perfect time now that a lot of us are changing our schedules and things are becoming different, we can also change how we treat our bodies and also how we treat time and what we think about these things. So a very wonderful thing to do when we wake up in the morning is to, a lot of us have meditation practices or lay there and think about our dreams or journal or what have you. Try something different. Try getting out of bed right away. Try to start stretching immediately. Maybe drink your water, go to the bathroom, then hop into some stretching. If that doesn't suit you, drink your water, go to the bathroom, go out for a walk. Do some stretching on a walk or something. Get some air if it's cold.
Only if it's cold though, right?
Well, it was nice the other day and I put on some layers because I wanted to sweat more actually. So it's a great time to be creative. It's a great time to err on the side of failure or being weird. Let's not be scared how we're using our bodies. Let's not be scared to break patterns and habits, and let's try new things. Let's try to do more. Challenge yourself for one day or one morning and one night, and prove to yourself what you can't do. And a lot of us don't have access to our normal routine, so it's like, well, what do I do? I go to the gym pretty often. There's weights there and different machines and things. And so now that that's not accessible to me and I don't really have access to too many weights and things of that nature, I've personally been running a lot more. I go on walks at least once a day. And before I would go on a walk maybe once a week or so, going on runs. I'm doing a lot of stretching and I do teach yoga and I know things of yoga, but I'm straying from those practices just to explore my body more and not really care about what I'm doing so much as like breathing very big and trying to completely stretch myself from my toes, legs, front body, neck, and just really move into different positions that I didn't really even think to do just because I was happy in my routine and things like that. So I'm personally getting the opportunity to really explore my own body, and what that's doing for me is it's bringing a lot more openness and relaxation and reduction of stress and clear thinking, because now my body feels less tense and I didn't even notice that it was tense. So just so many different interesting things. And if I were to have a final word of recommendation, at night, before we go to bed, put yourself in some darkness. Don't lay in your bed. Lay on the ground, sit on the ground, sit in a chair, in the darkness. Maybe you got some sounds coming off your phone or whatever. Breathe. Feel your body. Ask yourself, what's a couple great things that happened today? What's a couple things that I would have liked to do better today? What's a couple things I'm grateful for? Tomorrow, what's one or two things I would like to focus on? And after those a couple minutes or 5 minutes of talking with yourself, maybe you want to write these down, maybe just talk to yourself. And if you find your mind is a little overwhelmed, just focus on breathing. Feel your stomach, feel your body, feel the relaxation. And then when you go to lay down in bed, talk to yourself and accept that the day is done. Everything happened, whatever. Whatever you feel about it, whatever, it happened. And release yourself of the day, be there, be present, and then allow yourself to receive the rest and allow yourself to receive the evening. And generally what I have been noticing from myself and my peers, our dreams are changing and our dreams are becoming much more interpretable and lucid and harmonized, if you will, and homogeneous with our day-to-day thinking mind. And it's just basically what I'm saying is these things will bring such a greater connection with yourself and bring a lot more awareness that it will multiply and increase in orders of magnitude, just being consistent through the days. And think of a bookshelf as a quick analogy. Let's say you have on the initial part of the bookshelf, you have some really great books. And on the end part of the bookshelf, you have some really great books. It's wise to consider that in between those are probably going to be some pretty good books. And even if they're not, it's probably going to be considered a pretty good bookshelf. So what I'm trying to say is if you have a powerful, whatever that means, doesn't have to mean fast or busy or whatever. If you have a powerful connected morning with yourself and you have a powerful connected evening with yourself, a lot will happen in a great way for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think especially in this time, I love what you said, but I think in this time it's so easy for people to find routines to do at home now because so many people are doing live streams, doing yoga live stream, meditations live stream, but do some of that, but balance it out, like you said, with giving yourself some alone time, because I feel like the earth is telling us right now, like, hey, yo, you guys are fucking busy all the time. Like, it's time to slow down for a second. You don't have to stay busy. You don't have to do all these things. Right now is the perfect opportunity to go within and to find out more about yourself and to go deeper within. So I love that. Does anybody else, any other speakers, have any thoughts or comments so far?
I just want to say I only giggled, Nick, because I'm looking at my bookshelf with a pile in the middle that are books I need to read, and there's a stack that's standing upright on both ends of books I have read that are my favorites. And I was just thinking, wow, I need to spend my quarantine reading these books in the middle.
Perfect.
Yeah. Everybody's like, I have so many books to read, but
So
I don't
many.
have the time to do it. And the earth was like, well, guess what? Guess what? Now you got time. You don't need to distract yourself all the
I'm
time.
bad. I'm still not reading. I'm distracting. So I keep telling myself, though, it'll add up. I'll get tired of myself sooner or later.
I've been doing more reading, actually. I've made it a point to put my phone on airplane mode at night, and before I can take it off in the morning, I have to read at least a paragraph. It used to be a chapter, but then some books have really long chapters. But I found myself, if I just tell myself I only have to read a paragraph, it turns into several pages pretty quickly, and the phone kind of fades out of my memory until I feel satisfied with doing something, and then I can go about my day knowing that I did at least learn something new. If I don't do anything else the rest of the day, I've at least read a paragraph or a page that gives me some sort of new knowledge to go off of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great time for that. I know we'll kick it over to Amy. I know, Amy, that you and Max, you guys do a lot of flow art. And one time I did a workshop where you had these kind of like circus objects that you could play with. But, I'm curious because I feel like a lot of us are struggling to stay motivated. And with all the tools that you have, Amy, do you find yourself struggling to stay motivated to be, active physically during this quarantine?
Yeah, I do, definitely. I find that my feelings change. I'm noticing a lot with the weather. That's something I've noticed before, but, just having a lot more time to be with myself. And, I have been taking the invitation to tune in. I still have work and routines that I've embraced and that I already had because I already worked from home part of the time. But yeah, definitely my motivation to want to do things is different. I too have been spending more time outside. I actually did pick up a hula hoop on my own for the first time in a really long time. I participated in an online ecstatic dance the other night, and I really needed that. But it has been hard for me to to really hone in on learning new skills. It's been more the need to rest and to support others. And I really think that that's okay. I, like everyone else has been touching on, I think it's so important to tune in and listen to your body and accept the invitation to rest. And I think that that's especially challenging for families who have kids with special needs, because I work with so many families whose parents are so worried about their development and want them to be engaged in learning activities all the time, and who also, secondly, think that they're not good enough. Like they as parents are not good enough to be the providers of these learning activities, that they must be with therapists and teachers and professionals who can impart these really miraculous changes on their children. And I think it's actually a really cool thing that now families have to be with their children. Not that it's not without challenges. I know there's parents that have to work and be parents and teachers all at the same time, but I'm hoping that families end up empowered by getting to know their kids and realizing how capable they are of supporting their kids' learning, and how okay it is for their kids to have downtime. I think that that's an incredibly valuable part of the learning process. And me in flow arts, kids in education, and everyone needs this downtime. So going back to what you asked, no, I'm not picking up the things quite as much. I'm usually inspired by doing it with others. So that's okay. Mm-hmm. I think it's okay for everyone to take this pause.
I have a question for you, though, Amy. I think it's very important to get that downtime, like you said, but I know that you also have, you're very skilled in knowing different activities for those that want to kind of have something to do with their hands. And what are maybe some simple suggestions for those parents who don't know how to allow their littles or even themselves to kind of get their brain moving if they don't want to take this time as downtime? Do you have any like suggestions for activities that maybe we've used at Inclusion Fest or anything?
Yeah, well, actually, we, in response to what's going on, we created a virtual gathering space on Facebook called Inclusion Zones. As you know, we have sensory zones at Inclusion Festival that all have different themes, getting grounded and engaging in music and self-expression, art and play, yoga and mindfulness, and so on. So this online group, this Inclusion Zones Facebook group, we're featuring daily activities and suggestions and challenges all around those themes. So the programming is modeled, the same way that we organize the festival. And there's suggestions, live streams, videos that you can watch anytime, and then also just encouragement to do something around the house. Things like going on nature walks, looking for spring things. Dancing and combining yoga with music. So there's a lot of suggestions there. You can search for Inclusion Zones on Facebook, and it's really good for kids of all ages and abilities, big kids and little kids, adults too. But play, to answer your question, I think is more important than anything else. I think play and movement, because the higher level skills that parents tend to really want to see in their kids, like the ability to problem solve and express themselves clearly, those things don't come if we can't feel and be in our bodies. So the only way to feel and understand and get to know your body, so that you can access those higher level skills, is to feel it, to move with it, to play in it. So dancing, yoga, a hula hoop if you have one. There's no right way to move it. It can be a prop for a game. It can be a prop in an obstacle course. You can spin it around your arm. Really any toys.
I love it. I love it. I think dance is really important. I know that my friends and I that haven't been able to see each other, we've started Snapchat dance parties where we'll pick favorite songs and we'll just dance and send it to each other to motivate each other to like move their body and to just smile and try to move through whatever we're working through in that moment.
It's really awesome. I've been doing that with my clients.
Well, I'm glad that we're all able to, kind of come up with creative ways to get movement in. I want to go to the comment section on our website. We have a comment from Gregory who said, I think there are two extreme mindsets going on right now, where one is panic and people think it's the end of the world right now, and other people think it's not bad, and the government and all the health organizations are just overreacting. He also said that we should try to stay in the middle of those mindsets, just, not panic. So, Sarah, we'll go over to you. What do you think about this comment? Do you agree with it? Or?
I actually love that idea of staying in the middle. I think that the middle path right now is an important one to reference for ourselves, and just to remember to stay in the present moment with all of this. I too have heard a lot of people thinking that this is the apocalypse and that kind of thing. But look, we don't know that. We don't. There's no proof out there at all that says that this is something that ends, the world as we know it. Sure, it means change. We are seeing change spelled out in many different areas of life, and likely this experience will leave behind some lasting changes, hopefully lasting changes that start important conversations that help us to make the world a better place, help us to use our minds and our hearts to make the world a little bit more unified, a little bit more safe, compassionate, and that kind of thing. But I think, yes, staying in the present moment, staying cautiously and hopefully positive about what's going on, while remaining realistic about what's in front of you at this time. All of these things are very, very, very important. So yeah, not jumping to conclusions right now is helpful, because remember, that comes from fear, and when we're in fear, it debilitates us. It only, we'll say, pushes back our ability to function in ways that are balanced and healthy. So I would agree that staying in the middle is a good idea. I started Bring Me to Life in 2011, and I
was really believing that 2012 was kind of like an end of the world. But the more I, got into it and researched it, the more I realized that the Mayans were saying 2012 isn't the end of the world. It's just the end of our kind of like reality where a new one was going to be reborn. And for a while, I felt like 2020 was just a more intense, basically like a 2012. And I did a lot of stuff in 2012 where I just kind of left everything. I detached from everything and I left. And I kind of thought this is what was going to happen back then, but it's, it's all happening right now. And I do want to remind everybody that apocalypse in Latin means the revealing of truth. It doesn't mean the end of anything. It means the revealing of something. So I believe that we're all, kind of awakening to a lot of truths that we haven't been able to acknowledge because our world has been so divided and so distracted. And I hope through all of this, everybody is able to, gain more insight and be able to create a better world from this kind of chaos that's happened. Are there any comments about this right now? Awesome. Okay, well, we're getting to the end of the discussion, so I want to thank everybody for listening, for being here. I would like to go around to each speaker so we can all have and say an ending statement. So we'll go ahead and we'll do it how we did at the beginning, and we'll start with Amy.
I'm really grateful that you asked me to be part of this. I've been listening, doodling, and taking notes, and I know that I really personally benefited from everything that was shared in this past hour. It was some new information and some just really validating messages, and I really trust that there's a reason for all of this, and I hope that more people than realize that right now in this moment come to realize that, because I really think that everyone individually and collectively is going to come out stronger with the ability to make choices in their lives that lead to better work-life balance, better relationships with themselves, their family, and all others in their lives, and a sense of empowerment, knowing that they can be in charge of designing a life that is best for them. And, I know sometimes that seems really hard when there's these systems that don't support our ability to make those choices, but those systems are changing, and we're realizing how important taking care of each other is, that if one person is sick, it could impact all of us. And that's never been so clear, I don't think, to so many people than it is at this time. So I'm feeling grateful and optimistic. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any social media links or any resources that you'd like to share?
Yeah, there's the Facebook group that I mentioned that can be found at facebook.com/groups/inclusion zones. And then there's, of course, our regular Facebook page and Instagram for Inclusion Festival, inclusionfestival.com. I'm not sure how that'll play out for this summer. It's scheduled to be August 21st, 22nd, and 23rd in Scranton, Pennsylvania. It will be our third annual Inclusion Festival, and I trust that it will be exactly when it's meant to be. So follow us, stay tuned, and you can connect with us online or at our event when it happens. And I'd love to hear from anyone that listened. inclusionfestival@gmail.com, inclusionfestival.com, and on Facebook.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. We'll go over now to Sarah for your ending statement.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so grateful to be part of this conversation, and I learned some wonderful things from everyone here today. Just as a last thought with all of this, if you're going through a time where you're feeling that there's a lot of maybe facing of fear or transcending challenges, or even just going within, retreating, and getting to know yourself a little bit better, I'd like to plant this particular seed. Your safety, well-being, abundance, and so forth are not dependent upon the conditions of the outer world. I think it was Christ that said something like, it's not through bread alone, which basically just means don't look to the physical outer world only, for your sense of truth, safety, well-being, and so forth. Those things are unconditional and they come from within. They come from within. So start to play with that idea a little bit. Maybe call upon your angels and ask them to reveal a little bit about how that might apply to your path and what you're learning or developing right now. So just thought I'd share that little thought and idea. I want you to know that for all of you, I'm sending so much love, support, prayer, and strength. I'll be around to continue sending anybody who wants it, any extra tidbits of support at this time. So feel free to keep in touch with me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. At SarahHall444 is my handle on all of those. Visit me at sarahhall.com as well if you're interested in a Skype or FaceTime healing or angel reading or anything like that, or to sign up for one of my online courses, all of which are down to a very discounted registration fee right now, just so that anybody who wants to do a little bit of spiritual study at this time, you can do it if you've got a little extra time on your hands at home. Keep in touch. I love you all, and thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah, for being here. Sarah also does Through the Eyes of the Angels on our network, usually on the third Thursday of the month at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to tune in for that at bringmetolife.com/Sarah Hall. Again, thank you, Sarah, for being here.
Yay. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and go to Shannon for the ending statement.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. I'm really excited to see Bring Me to Life doing all the things again. I know that we've been working and wanting to make this happen, so I'm grateful that everybody was here in the discussion tonight. Just adding on to what everyone else already said is to just make sure you're taking time to do something that brings you some sort of joy. Even if it feels like joy is weird to be aiming for right now, it's so important. Whether that joy is resting, relaxing, and getting that downtime that is so much needed, or focusing on a new hobby or project of some kind, or whatever it is. But if you do need some more uplifting content and you need to stop scrolling through the negativity, I highly suggest checking out bringmetolife.com, because there's so many beautiful podcasts by so many other people, not even just Seelman. Like you said, Sarah's on there. We have other people on there. There's a radio network if you just want music to kind of chill and vibe to. And it's important to find things that light up your life. And that being said, if you want to find me and you want to reach out, I have my group on Facebook that is Light Up Your Life with Shannon Shine. You can find my website at shannonshine.com. I'm doing readings for people if they want readings, whether those are intuitive or with cards or with loved spirits that have passed over. Or if you are looking for any sort of art or jewelry or crystals, that's something else that I dabble in. I have a lot of on my Copper and Shine Alchemy page. But in general, I'm just really grateful to have this Bring Me to Life outlet. So thanks, Silo, for creating it and keeping it going.
You are welcome. All right, Nick.
Oh, I really appreciate this space that we all came together to co-create. And I also was taking some notes. I learned so much. I really appreciate everyone's time and effort going into here. And I'd just like to share a few things of my notes that stuck out. And that was just basics. Do not fear. It's debilitating. And we can stay present through this. Presence simply means slowing down, feeling your body, checking your breath, being aware of your immediate environment in the basic sense. Just to simplify, we can detox from media, holding space for peace. And something that very much stuck out to me was the healing process as a noun. The healing process serves us. It brings us unification with ourselves, with our relationships. And that also requires us to step up in our consciousness, step up in our life, like to use a metaphor, like the mother going into the grandmother. And the mother is basically learning from the grandmother before her and just stepping up in her own way. And this is a time to release control, realign our priorities, getting comfortable by being uncomfortable, and just trusting in the higher purpose. And one little tidbit of a seed that I would like to plant as well is you decide what is meaningful to you. If you are running late or you woke up late and a 1-minute exercise or a 1-minute breathing is all you have, that's better than nothing. And you do that for 7 days in a row. And sure, that's only 7 minutes in total. But now you have a habit forming. And just like Shannon had mentioned about her reading, sometimes her goal is only a paragraph. And sometimes that turns into pages. But I'm sure sometimes that's only a paragraph. But now she's accessing pages and pages, whereas when it was a page, maybe she didn't access any at all. So it's just the small things. And we don't have to be hard on ourselves. We're trying. Life is not the easiest. And we are all juggling and struggling in our own different ways. There's a lot going on right now. It's important to be cool, calm, and collected. And every baby step counts. And it's just we're moving forward through gratitude, through appreciation, respect, and consideration. And everything is not always as it appears. Our first assumption is not always correct. So tuning inward and being calm really opens the space for certain timelines to collapse, for the world we wish to see to become more vivid and lucid, and we can feel the resonance toward our passion projects and the things that we are trying to problem solve. We can play our way through these things, and something previously drudgering, like an apocalypse, now can be a beautiful revealing of truth, because we are connected and will further connect within and not be so dependent on the structures and systems of the physical world. So I thank you all very much for having me this evening.
Absolutely. Recently you shared a Wim Hof breathing exercise, and I've done it, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. So anybody who doesn't know Wim Hof, he's really, powerful man who shares a lot of powerful breathing exercises, and that's something that you can do that will really boost your immune system, is breathing in that oxygen. And so everybody check that out. Thank you, Nick, for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you really enjoyed this episode, it's going to be shared all over the platforms on YouTube, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, basically any podcast platform that you're into. We're pretty much on it. So make sure to share this episode, with any of your friends, anybody who you think could benefit for it. So, everyone, please be well. Continue to focus on what kind of world you would like to see once all of this passes, because together we will create the new world. Thank you all. Have a great day, and namaste.
For many of us, spirituality is just the quest to find essence or true meaning, and to really just connect with a higher consciousness.
Connecting with your spirituality is very important in this life. By becoming mindful of all of it, you can realize where you are and if that is leading you to where you want to go.
Listen to the little simple things, because it's those little simple things that are going to shift you vibrationally in such a way that will prepare you to become very intuitively minded and ready to step forward on the next part of your path.
I hope you can feel the love that's inside you, it's inside me, that connects us.
Thanks for shining on with us.